What do you make of both St. Louis and Minneapolis saying that they actually voted to maybe think about going to 100 basis points?
Hi, yes, thanks for having me. So one important distinction to make is that the information we just got from the Fed is about the discount rate. It's not about the federal funds rate. But it is symbolic still because it does all kind of work in concert, right? So it is kind of interesting that we're seeing more hawkish kind of lean on monetary policy from these two regional Fed banks.
Overall, when we get this sort of drip feed, when we get this idea of what momentum is building behind a more hawkish Fed, do you really feel, Catarina, that the market has got it very wrong when it comes to a dovish pivot?
I mean, I think that's the big question right now. I think one way to answer that is to say that I don't think Fed leaders are probably super happy with what they're seeing in markets right now. I think, you know, the recovery we've seen in the past few weeks or you know, kind of stocks picking up, at least before the last move down, is probably not super welcome. So I think what we're seeing in the past few days is more welcome.
Catarina, what do you think this will mean for our expectations for the Fed meeting coming in Jackson Hole?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be very watched, especially what Chair Powell says in his speech. I think that if they really want to push back against some of this sentiment that they could be becoming a bit more dovish, then you know he could definitely use that as a platform to do that. And you know, if I had to place money on it, I think that's what I would maybe expect to see, but it'll be interesting. You know, he's been very vocal about them watching data and not wanting to provide too much forward guidance. So we could also see kind of a more nuanced approach from him.
So further on that point, I think you made a good point that we were talking about the discount rate here, not the Fed funds rate. But what do we know about the relationship between the two? And further on Gina's point, what you can glean from hearing that this may be about the discount rate, but what that sort of signals about the Fed funds rate, which of course we're all still continuing to watch closely.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a signal that there are more hawkish members, you know, or more hawkish sentiments, I should say, at some of the regional Fed banks, and that we could see that play out in September, for example, with some folks leaning toward something like 75 basis points, whereas, you know, a lot of folks are now starting to think that we might get 50 basis points in September.